that there was a Saudi prince in Miami.
Find him to be credible, but they do.
He talked the part, he dressed the part, he drove the part.
You know what it is.
There's like Your Highness or His Highness.
He's got the elaborate jewelry, the Cartier bracelets.
It was definitely all over the news.
An orphaned young boy from the bustling streets of Bogota dares to dream beyond the confines of his reality. He didn't just dream of being a prince, he became one in the eyes of the world and turned fiction into fortune. His bold deception evolved into an elaborate series of cons, climaxing in a grand scheme where he masqueraded as a Saudi royal prince to swindle investors out of more than $8 million. This audacious act of impersonation wasn't just a ploy. It was a meticulously crafted narrative that blurred the lines between truth and fabrication, leading to a staggering culmination of deceit and revelation. Our story takes us back to 1970 in Bogota, the capital city of Colombia.
There were so many ways that the system that a bot manipulated.
It was the year when José Enrique Moreno was born. He faced a challenging childhood as one of the country's throwaway children, many of whom became foot soldiers in the nation's brutal drug war. He never knew who his parents were. However, he had a younger brother, Daniel, and alongside him, he tried to navigate the hardships stemming from Colombia's issues back then. The issues, so to speak, were of a humongous nature. Some children found themselves working as drug runners, turning to sniffing glue to numb the harsh realities of cold and hunger. For those who attempted independent drug sales, the consequences often turned deadly at the hands of cartels. Those fortunate enough to survive faced dehumanizing treatment akin to that of rodents. At an age when most 5-year-olds were starting kindergarten and getting in warm beds after enjoying a full meal, José was navigating the streets of Bogota. His mission, scrounging for food, resorting to theft if necessary, all while searching for a dry, safe, and warm spot to rest his 5-year-old head, with the added responsibility of caring for his 3-year-old brother. Survival kind of became their primary goal, teaching them that the ability to endure was its own invaluable reward. When he was 6 years old, Providence intervened as Jim Gignac and his wife arrived in Bogota to adopt the orphaned brothers. They brought them to Plymouth, Michigan, providing a new home and identity for them. José was then given a new name, Anthony Gignac, a name that would later find itself associated with both the limelight and the confines of a jail cell. But how? Well, things started to fall apart quickly for Gignac. The reason could have been the initial years spent living on the streets, which had highly impacted him. His desires were driven by a desire for money, freedom, and, above all, significance. The journey into deception began with small white lies he told his classmates. He claimed that his mother was a hotel owner, and his biological father was the famous actor Dom DeLuise. Then, by the age of 12, he executed his first con, convincing a car dealership that his father was in fact a fictional wealthy Saudi royal who intended to purchase him an extravagant car. However, the absence of funds and a non-existent royal figure quickly exposed the scheme. His parents got concerned about his mental health and sought help by hiring a professional therapist for him. However, the results were not as fruitful. When he was occasionally sent to camp, he continued bragging to everyone that he possessed significant wealth and importance. Following his adoptive parents' divorce, Gignac experienced a heartbreaking separation from his brother, the only consistent presence in his life since their days on the streets. This event shattered something inside him, making him question how they could take away the one person who had always been there for him. It was at that time, around the age of 17, that he decided to leave home. He had to live by himself from now on, so his first move was to steal his friend's father's credit card. Living on that credit card, he carved out a scheme where he impersonated himself as Prince Adnan Khashoggi, a well-known weapons trader. Khashoggi was also renowned for his extravagant lifestyle and lucrative business dealings, and he was the world's wealthiest man at the time. Gignac knew that average Americans often struggled to distinguish between individuals of Arab and Hispanic descent. Hence, he exploited these stereotypes, using them to his advantage. This marked the start of Gignac's criminal endeavors. With his new identity, Gignac aimed for larger targets. He indulged in a lavish lifestyle, drinking whiskeys with friends. However, he overlooked a crucial detail. He claimed to be a Muslim, and Muslims typically do not partake in drinking whiskeys and beers. That is why this stint was short-lived. In the early months of 1988, the police received a report that Gignac was cruising around Detroit in a limo, all paid for with his friend's father's stolen credit card. Simultaneously, Ann Arbor police, connecting the dots, discovered Gignac's false impersonation of someone he was not. At that time, he was living with a Michigan family for 2 months as the prince. He was eventually arrested. The arrest, however, was brief. This further fascinated Gignac because it was so easy to pull off his schemes, as if he had discovered a simple way to survive, live comfortably, and obtain things effortlessly. Now fully convinced that flaunting money was his ticket to success, he continued down this deceptive path. The next stop for him was the glamorous city of Los Angeles. And guess what? The first thing he did when he got there, he managed to acquire a credit card under the name Omar Khashoggi. However, his deceptive actions caught up with him, leading to a conviction for failing to pay an $8,600 limousine bill in 1991. Gignac turned 21 that year and further escalated his plots, adopting a new name, Khalid bin Al Saud, which was actually the identity of a real Saudi prince. Under this new persona, he accumulated a $3,500 bill at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel over 4 days and rode in limos without settling a $7,500 bill. The same year, Gignac also convinced the Louis Vuitton store on Rodeo Drive to provide him with luggage, claiming his father, a Saudi prince, would cover the expenses. This led to his arrest again, which was also quite brief. This particular incident, however, gave him the title Prince of Fraud. Once he got out of jail, he acquired an American Express card under the same name, Khalid bin Al Saud. Afterward, Gignac stayed at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in San Francisco for several weeks before another stint in jail, lasting 53 days. Violating probation, he spent Christmas at the luxurious Halekulani Hotel in Hawaii. There, he befriended guests and conned a couple into writing him a check for $8,500 in shares for a non-existent Saudi oil company. He then convinced another couple to cover his $20,000 hotel bill before disappearing. The seriousness of his crimes was undeniably escalating with each passing day. Around 1993, Gignac tricked the Walt Disney World Grand Floridian Beach Resort, accumulating $14,000 in credit card charges. He did get caught and was placed on probation, yet he disappeared with immediate effect, only to reappear at the Grand Bay Hotel in Coconut Grove, swindling $27,000 and $51,000 from the local Saks Fifth Avenue afterward. The police got seriously involved after these stints, and he was eventually apprehended in Chicago and extradited to Florida for trial. Facing charges of fraud and grand theft, he received a 2-year sentence. However, spending time in prison still didn't prevent Gignac from pursuing his schemes. While in jail, posing as Prince Khalid, he started reaching out to lawyers to secure his bail. He assured them that his father, a Saudi king, would handle all the legal fees. Oscar Rodriguez, a Miami attorney, viewed this as a lucrative business opportunity and agreed to represent the prince. He dispatched 2 bondsmen to post a $46,000 bail for the supposed prince. The bondsmen picked up Gignac from the Miami jail, expecting the money for bail at their office. However, the promised funds never arrived, leading the bondsmen to inform Gignac that he needed to return to jail. During the return, Gignac developed an audacious plan. He told the bondsmen that he could obtain money from an American Express office nearby. They obliged, and Gignac tearfully entered the building and told the clerks that he was Prince Khalid, and he'd been robbed and all his credit cards stolen. The clerks agreed to issue replacement cards, only if Gignac could recount the last 2 transactions of the real Prince Khalid. And guess what? He managed to provide the correct answers, validating his stolen identity and obtaining a platinum card with a huge $200 million limit. But how? Gignac had already offered Rolex watches to additional staff members who had agreed to provide him with the correct answers. The bond got paid, and capitalizing on this newfound credit, Gignac indulged in a spending frenzy, first purchasing 2 Rolexes and an emerald bracelet for the staff members, and then fulfilling his desires. He then jet-setted with the bondsman back to Michigan, where he pledged a $1 million donation to a university and promptly booked a flight back to Miami. Upon their return to Miami, Gignac learned that Rodriguez's daughter was traveling to New York for school. Seizing the opportunity, he offered to upgrade them to first class and book an entire floor at the Four Seasons Hotel, all while committing credit card fraud. However, the American Express Fraud Department intervened, alerting the bondsman that their prince was not actually a prince, but a boogie engaged in fraudulent activities. With the assistance of Marty and O'Connell, the 2 bondsmen, they managed to transport Gignac to LaGuardia Airport. However, Gignac came up with another plan at the airport. He attempted to manipulate the situation by falsely claiming that he was being kidnapped. The police swiftly intervened, throwing Rodriguez, O'Connell, and Marty to the ground. O'Connell, under pressure, however, clarified the situation by presenting his paperwork, leading to their release. Determined to return Gignac to Miami without further incidents, they decided against air travel and opted to drive back from New York to Florida, with Gignac occasionally let out of the trunk for breaks. He was sentenced again to 616 days in prison, but this still did not halt his scam streak. During his prison time, he had reconnected with his younger brother, Daniel, and devised a plot. He contacted Syracuse University and informed them that Prince Khalid wished to donate $45 million to the school. He then requested that the university wire a portion of the donation's taxes to his bank account in Michigan. Syracuse sent $16,000 to a bank account owned by his brother Daniel. Both brothers nevertheless got convicted afterward, with Gignac receiving 46 months for wire fraud. He later had 37 months added to his sentence when he set his jail cell on fire and spilled shampoo on the floor to create a slippery surface for a daring escape. Throughout the late 90s, Gignac continued to deceive, even fooling a Yale graduate lawyer and having a meeting with Johnny Cochran, famous for his defense of O.J. Simpson. He was eventually released from prison in the early 2000s and returned home to Michigan to live with his mother, Nancy. He resumed his old tricks, receiving 2 Cadillacs without questions, asked, dining, shopping, and staying at hotels without ever paying the bills. All of this was because he convinced people that the Saudi royal family would send payments. In 2003, Gignac was arrested for impersonating a diplomat, charging $11,300 at Saks Fifth Avenue and $17,600 at Neiman Marcus to his family accounts. Real Saudi princes and princesses, however, informed American authorities that they had no association with the Michigan Prince Khalid. This time, Gignac found himself in a full-blown interrogation room, with officials standing across the window to hear what he had to say. He still claimed to be Khalid bin Al Saud and provided forged documentation to prove his connections to the Saudi royals. He even tried to convince them by speaking fake Arabic, but eventually ended up in prison again. He faced several more imprisonments over the next decade for running similar scams. In prison, Gignac devised his most elaborate and final scheme. He was in the midst of devising a plan when he got out of jail. Once he got out, it was the same old Anthony Gignac again. He took to social media to perpetuate his con. He started sharing photos on Instagram, showcasing himself adorned with Rolexes and cruising in luxurious cars. Khalid's presence on social media fueled his inclination to flaunt his self-proclaimed status as a prince. Capitalizing on the online platform, Khalid posted images aiming to solidify his newfound image of wealth. And many were duped into thinking he was indeed Gignac. The illusion of prosperity created through these online posts became a potent tool, enabling him to gain entry into the wallets of the super rich once again. Now, to make his final scheme a reality, he required something he had never possessed before: access to the lives of the super rich. This opportunity presented itself in the form of Carl Marden Williamson, a British asset manager residing in North Carolina. Williamson, much like Gignac, was described as charismatic and larger than life. However, in contrast, he maintained a mostly legitimate business. Gignac found in Williamson the key to infiltrate the world of the rich and set the stage for his grand plan. Williamson prepared for a business meeting with a Saudi prince. He was articulate and possessed a skill for weaving convincing lies. With connections in high places globally, he eagerly anticipated the rendezvous with the fake Prince Khalid. Meanwhile, Gignac, living lavishly in Miami, decorated himself in designer attire and jewelry. Gignac, accompanied by his new companion, a tiny chihuahua named Foxy, had constructed an escort that followed him around. He even hired bodyguards with fake diplomatic badges. While residing in a 3-bedroom penthouse on Fisher Island, Gignac falsely claimed ownership of the entire 54-unit luxury apartment building. It was just like his school days, where he flaunted fabricating stories about his status and wealth to garner friendships. The meeting got set up, and he presented Williamson with a proposal. The world's largest company, Saudi Aramco, was contemplating going public. Valued at a staggering $2 trillion, Gignac asserted that he could provide a friends and family special for potential investors. Without hesitation, Williamson considered Anthony's proposition. So what he did was establish an investment company for the prince by the name of Marden Williamson International LLC. He also generated valuable information outlining the fundamentals of the company. This included crucial details, such as its logo, prominently featuring a regal crown, symbolizing its Saudi royal ownership. He also presented investors with information highlighting the company's advantageous locations in both New York and Dubai. The presented information appeared entirely legitimate, and Williamson was well aware that it would captivate potential investors. However, his overarching strategy revealed a more ambitious agenda. Using his connections, he informed potential investors about the opportunity to purchase pre-IPO, pre-initial public offering, shares of Saudi Aramco. Khalid signaled approval by crafting the official announcement for the IPO's public launch. In the statement, he expressed delight at how pleased he was to be a key player in the Saudi oil company. The pitch was that when Aramco eventually went public, investors would enjoy the same returns as the Saudi royal family. So, to participate, high net worth individuals had to demonstrate their respect and devotion to Prince Khalid by presenting extravagant gifts, including jewelry and Rolex watches. And that is exactly what they did. Their first success was with an investment banker in London, who extended a loan of $150,000. Capitalizing on this initial triumph, Marden International continued to advance in its deceptive venture. Overall, they deceived 26 people, persuading them to hand over a combined total of a staggering $8 million. The funds were obviously never invested in legitimate business opportunities. Their victims ranged from wealthy business professionals, anchors and attorneys, to regular individuals who entrusted significant sums of money. Victim impact statements would later reveal that many individuals would struggle to recover from their financial losses. Both Gignac and Williamson's schemes propelled them into a new world of white-collar fraud, leaving a trail of financial devastation in its wake. The duo's fraudulent business ventures were gaining success with each passing day. Gignac always knew how to project the image and articulate the language of success. And now, with real high-flyer connections, he was gaining credibility as well. Williamson went a step even further by purchasing diplomatic license plates from eBay for the prince to adorn on his luxury vehicles. Despite these luxuries, Gignac's appetite for opulence continued to grow, leading him to identify his next target. Jeffrey Soffer, a billionaire real estate developer who actually embodied the lifestyle that Gignac pretended to live. The Soffer family owned multiple hotels and apartment buildings in Florida, including the iconic Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami. Jeffrey lived between his super yacht and 3 mansions, traveled in private jets, and was married to supermodel Elle Macpherson. However, the Fontainebleau Hotel had been grappling with debt. Gignac pounced on the opportunity and devised a plan. A representative of Prince Khalid bin Al Saud, alias Anthony, approached Jeffrey, expressing interest in purchasing a 30% stake in the Fontainebleau for $440 million, an overvaluation of about $140 million. The offer intrigued Jeffrey, who was pretty stressed out with the debt issue. The Saudi prince claimed ownership of an entire high-rise apartment building on the exclusive Fisher Island. The offer was tempting, but something about the way the prince conducted business raised suspicions for Jeffrey Soffer and his team. Jeffrey began conducting a thorough background check on the prince. While doing that, he invited the prince on a trip to Aspen. Arriving via Jeffrey's private jet, they found themselves in the lobby of the Grandson Regis Aspen Resort. During their stay, Gignac received a call from the management of the apartment he was renting, inquiring about his ownership claim for the entire building. Sensing Jeffrey's suspicion, Khalid reacted with a dramatic outburst in the lobby, claiming insult to his honor and threatening to back out of the Fontainebleau deal. Fearing the deal's jeopardy, Jeffrey decided to appease Khalid by presenting him with a gift as a sign of respect. The next day, they reconvened for lunch, and Jeffrey, having already gifted artwork and a $5,000 diamond-encrusted dog collar for Foxy, offered Khalid a $50,000 Cartier bracelet. This gesture seemed to pacify the prince, and they proceeded with their meal. However, something inexplicable happened while eating the meal. Jeffrey noticed Khalid consuming a large portion of prosciutto, triggering alarm bells, as pork is considered a forbidden meat in the Islamic faith. Back in Miami, Jeffrey's team delved deeply into the prince's past. They hired a private investigator and received a detailed report exposing the 30-year scam orchestrated by the fake prince. The investigation revealed that Gignac had faced arrest or conviction 11 times in his life, leading to the conclusion that he may have genuinely started to believe in his royal persona. Gignac's true goal emerged to get on good terms with the Soffer family and use this connection to deceive potential investors into believing he had close ties with the Soffers. The investigation indicated that he had no intention of actually acquiring the Fontainebleau Hotel. The comprehensive report was then handed over to the FBI, leading the Diplomatic Security Service, SS, to take charge of the case. Gignac and Williamson, on the other hand, continued their travels around Dubai, Hong Kong, and London, meeting potential investors. Their deceitful offerings now extend to non-existent opportunities in a casino and pharmaceutical company. Gignac, true to form, was utilizing someone else's passport during his travels. Once they got back, the Diplomatic Security Service agents were waiting at the scene, immediately apprehending Gignac at the JFK International Airport on November 19, 2017. The authorities seized his false passport and belongings at the airport. Gignac, however, wasn't going down without a fight. In protest, he loudly claimed diplomatic status, and when that failed, he attempted a different approach, suggesting he possessed national security information that would be of interest. Despite this, he offered no substantial information. Following Gignac's arrest, federal agents raided Williamson's North Carolina home on December 14, 2017. They interrogated him for 6 hours. Throughout the interrogation, he maintained his innocence, insisting on the fact that he had no knowledge of the prince's fraudulent identity. On the same night, Williamson attempted suicide by hanging and succumbed to his injuries 2 days later. In May 2018, Anthony Gignac pleaded guilty to charges of impersonating a foreign diplomat, aggravated identity theft, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. During the investigation, authorities uncovered numerous forged documents spanning several years, supporting his false claims of being a Saudi prince. Federal agents seized $450,000 worth of jewelry, along with $80,000 in cash and various expensive artworks. It was also revealed that some of his watches and jewelry were fake, and much of his flashy display of wealth featured cheap, glued-on diamonds. His purportedly owned cars and yachts turned out to be rentals, and his Fisher Island penthouse, despite having an interior designer with royal clientele, contained only a few store-bought pieces of furniture. The false display of luxury that Anthony Gignac had meticulously crafted was ultimately exposed as a web of deceit. In May 2019, a Florida court sentenced Gignac to 18 years in prison for fraudulently assuming the identity of a member of the Saudi royal family to establish global relationships, particularly in South Florida, receive gifts, and orchestrate a large-scale scheme to defraud potential investors, as per the Florida Department of Justice. During the court proceedings in May 2019, Gignac admitted responsibility, stating,
"The entire blame for this entire operation is on me, and I accept that."
Currently, he is serving his sentence at the Federal Detention Center in Miami. Gignac displayed a remarkable ability to connect with people, a skill that can't be denied. He was also skilled in adjusting his behavior, personality, or presentation to fit the circumstances he found himself in. But there is also no denying the fact that he had a rough childhood. He once stated under oath that,
I was raped when I was 5 years old and sold on the streets to have sex with men to feed my brother. You do not know the pain that I've gone through.
even during his trial, Gignac consistently denied the actions that ultimately led to his downfall. His proficiency with words was evident, but in the end, he faced the consequences of his deeds and is now dealing with the repercussions of his actions. That is it from our side. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more detailed stories such as this. See you at the next one.